Just over a year after the death of rapper, producer, and songwriter Mac Miller, Mac's family shared a heartfelt letter to his fans on Instagram. This was in January of 2020, and the letter announced the upcoming release of a new album Mac was recording at the time of his death. It was called Circles, and it was meant to be a companion to his previous album, Swimming. Quote, "Swimming in circles" was the concept. I recently did a deep dive into these two albums, looking for connections between them. I made some pretty amazing discoveries. One of them literally made me jump off my couch. I'm Cole Cuchna, host of Spotify's music analysis podcast Dissect, a show that breaks down one album per season, one song per episode. Today, in honor of the anniversary of Mac Miller's final project, we're drawing connections between the companion albums Swimming and Circles. Okay, so let's jump right into Swimming. The album was released in 2018, just a month before Mac passed. In it, Mac speaks candidly about his battle with mental health and addiction, things he struggled with most of his adult life. This struggle is expressed through a metaphor about swimming in the album's opening track.
And I was drowning, but now I'm swimming through stressful waters to relief.
When faced with a choice to sink or swim, it appeared Mac was choosing to swim, to survive, to stay afloat. It's a hopeful way to start an album. But by the album's end, we're forced to second-guess these optimistic opening lines. Here's the final line of the final verse of the album's final song.
My God, it go on and on, just like a circle I go back where I'm from.
The line seems to evoke the biblical proverb from ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The idea that when we die, we return to the state we were before our birth. This allusion to death extends into the song's instrumental outro. According to a tweet made by Mac, this outro was supposed to evoke, quote, the ascension into heaven. Mac actually tweeted about this on the day he died. Just 10 hours later, he was pronounced dead from an accidental drug overdose. He was just 26 years old. Swimming's depiction of an ascent into heaven leads us into its companion, Circles. The album was released posthumously after Mac's producer, John Bryan, completed its remaining production needs. Like Swimming, Mac opens the album addressing its title.
I cannot be changed, I cannot be changed, no. Trust me, I've tried. I'd stand up right at the start of the line, drawing circles.
Mac uses the concept of drawing circles to express the redundancy of his efforts to change himself. With the concept of circles introduced in the closing moments of Swimming, these opening lines complete the link between the two albums. Despite his more hopeful attempts to swim to relief, Mac finds himself right back where he started, swimming in circles. This existential conception of circles permeates the entire album. At the end of the opening track, Mac uses a clock's rotating hands to point out the circular nature of each day. Mac returns to this very idea on the project's last track, Once a Day. Here's the final moments of the album.
Once a day I rise, once a day I fall asleep with you. Once a day I try, but I can't find a single word.
The idea of circles is evoked one last time as the perpetual cycle of waking in the morning and going to sleep at night. These are the small circles that create the larger circle of our life and death on Earth. But there's something else about this ending. I remember the first few times I listened to the album. The way it ended, it just didn't sit right with me. Specifically, it was the album's final chord that nagged at me. Take another listen.
A single word.
Doesn't quite sound complete, right? It kind of leaves you hanging. There's actually a technical reason for this. The song ends on a chord of extreme musical tension. Here's the last chord in isolation. Theoretically speaking, this chord is unstable. It's full of what we refer to in music theory as dissonance. When our ears hear an unstable chord like this, we crave resolution to a more stable chord. This is especially true at the end of a song. The vast majority of songs end on a stable chord. It's what gives a song a feeling of completion. But that's not what happens. The album ends unresolved, and in such an obvious way. So obvious that I find it hard to believe that it wasn't intentional. The reason why Mac or producer John Bryan might have made this choice nagged at me for days. I thought maybe it ties in with the last line Mac sings on that song. Once a day I try, but I can't find a single word. The missing last chord might stand in for the words Mac just can't find. Or I thought maybe it's some kind of comment on the life of Mac Miller. Unstable, unresolved, cut short. This nagged at me so much I literally had the album playing on repeat trying to figure it out. I was sitting in my living room when once again I heard the final moments of the album. And then the album started over. I jumped up off the couch and went straight to my piano. I fumbled around on the keys trying to figure out the chords for this opening song. Turns out the first chord is a stable one, E major. Then I played through the chords of Once a Day, and when I got to that final unstable chord the album ends on, I followed it with this E major chord. I'll spare you all the technical details, but in music theory, this is a proper resolution. The final unresolved chord of circles is resolved by the chord that begins the album. It closes the loop. The album Circles is a circle.
I try, but I can't find a single word.
We may never know if this theoretical connection was an intentional choice made by Mac or Bryan. Maybe it was deliberate. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was fate. To me, it doesn't really matter. It's there. And the way I see it, it fits perfectly into the concept of swimming in circles, the final, if not tragic, stroke of brilliance from the mind of Mac Miller.